Coming up, NFL coaches consistently mess this up, and that's why Harbaugh should have gone for 2 in this situation. That's not a gutsy call, Jack Del Rio. It's a bad call. Going for 2 feels risky, but we face risk either way, and closing our eyes doesn't help. It's week 10. My Packers get the ball back. 20 seconds left, trailing by 3, and almost get into range for kicker Brandon McManus. Almost. It's windy, he's got a lingering quad injury, and this kick would be a career long. So, should Coach LaFleur go for the difficult kick, which would tie, or a Hail Mary, which is less likely, but wins on the spot? Trick question. They shouldn't be in this situation. The key decision was here, when they scored down 10. They kicked the extra point, but I'm going to convince you that they should have gone for 2. If they had done that, they would be down either 2 or 4. And this later decision, kick or Hail Mary, wouldn't be so difficult. Coming up, we'll understand why this isn't just a curiosity. It's a key advantage that increases our win probability. I built a model for when to go for 2 and used it to identify this mistake. And also this mistake and this mistake. Is that Ndamukong Suh? There's even this situation where teams sometimes go for 2, but shouldn't. By the end of the video, we'll understand all 4 of these situations that NFL coaches consistently mess up. Teams use these end of game charts to decide when to go for 2. I use my model to generate one, and it mostly agrees with conventional wisdom, but sometimes it disagrees. Let's build the entire chart from scratch using basic math and intuition. To be precise about end of game, let's say we've just scored a touchdown with exactly 1 minute on the clock. Should we go for 2 based on the current margin? This clarifies things because there's really only time for one last possession. It makes some choices obvious. For example, at this point, a 2-point deficit is equivalent to a 1-point deficit. So if we're down 2, we should obviously go for 2 to tie it. And if we're down 3, we might as well take the extra point. In fact, all of these decisions are pretty clear. Feel free to pause the video and think them through. But that leaves us with only 3 difficult situations. When we're down 14 and score to go down 8, when we're down 10 and score to go down 4, and when we're down 7 and score to go down 1. We're going to go through each of these 3 situations in detail. The Ndamukong situation is special. Don't worry, we'll get to him too. Let's get into it. First situation, we're down 14 and we score to go down 8. Specifically, it's 2024, week 12, and Jim Harbaugh's Chargers are down 14 to John Harbaugh's Ravens. With 46 seconds, they score to reduce the deficit to 8. He ends up taking the extra point, but what should he do here? He should go for 2. And actually, in today's NFL, teams often get this right. Credit where it's due, Coach LaFleur, who I'm about to pick on in the next section, used it to come back against the Saints in 2023.
Love will take it in. Why are we going for 2? Looking. Now he throws, they convert. Love on 3rd down to the end zone. What a catch. Touchdown. The extra point is good. The Green Bay Packers.
But let's get back to the Chargers. What's Jim Harbaugh's plan here? He needs a lot to beat his brother John. Now that he's scored the touchdown, he's down 8. He needs the extra point to go down 7. He needs to recover the onside to get the ball back. He needs a TD to go down 1. He needs that extra point to tie it. And then he needs to win in overtime. He needs all these things to happen, so his chance of winning is given by this product. We'll need some real numbers to get anywhere. Throughout this video, I'm going to say the chance of winning in OT is 50%. That seems pretty reasonable. I'm also going to say that the chance of getting an extra point is 100%, and the chance of getting a 2-point conversion is 50%. These are probably both a little high, but round numbers will make the math cleaner as we go through the intuition. Later on, we'll talk about my actual best guess for these values, but they'll still just be my guess. So there's a spreadsheet in the description where you can type in whatever you believe and see how that changes things. You'll find that our conclusions based on the round numbers are pretty robust. Back to our equation for the Chargers win probability, we can plug in these values and simplify. We get that their win probability is the chance they get the onside times the chance they get the TD times 50%. This plan involves kicking 2 extra points. What are other potential choices? Here's one. He could kick an extra point after the first touchdown, but go for 2 after the second one. What does this plan look like? Now he needs the extra point to go down 7, the onside to get the ball back, the TD to go down by 1, and the 2-point conversion to win by 1 in regulation. So his probability of winning is given by this. That's the same as before. We just switched one 50-50, the chance of winning an OT, for another 50-50, the chance of getting the 2-point conversion. Teams sometimes do this, go for 2 with no time left rather than going to overtime, and it seems pretty reasonable to me. So these 2 plans are the same. Another equivalent plan would be to go for 2 after the first touchdown. With this plan, he needs the 2-point conversion to go down 6, the onside to get the ball back, the TD to tie it, and the extra point to win by 1 in regulation. The probability for this strategy is again the same. We've just swapped the order of events so that the 2-point conversion attempt happens first. So going for 2 then 1 is the same as going for 1 then 2, which is the same as going for 1 then 1. It's all equivalent, except not quite. Up until now, we've assumed that if any step of the plan fails, we lose. And that's pretty reasonable everywhere, except here. If we miss our initial 2-point conversion, there's still enough time to change our behavior. Now we're down 8, so we need to get the onside, score a touchdown to go down 2, get a 2-point conversion to tie it, and then win an OT. We are in rough shape, but we still have a chance. We don't even have to do out the math. We know this plan is strictly better than the one we just discussed. That one was the same, except it assumed that missing the 2-point conversion was an immediate loss, effectively just giving up on that branch. And that plan was equivalent to the two other plans, where we started with an extra point. So this plan, starting with the 2-point conversion, must be better than the plans that start with an extra point. It works out that if we multiply out the probabilities from this branch and add them on, we get that our total chance of winning is the probability of the onside times the probability of the touchdown times 62.5%, rather than 50% like before. That's a significant increase. This plan is better. The intuition here is that we've got to win a 50-50, either by winning an OT or going for 2. It feels right to delay this risk as long as possible and stay in the game, but it's wrong. If we resolve this 50-50 early, we get more information and we can use that to change our strategy. It's almost as if we get to look into the future and use that information to make better decisions. So that's why teams should go for 2 when they're down 14 and score to go down 8. Next, let's talk about the Packers situation from the intro. We're down 10 and score to go down 4. My model is even more excited to go for it here than down 14, but coaches consistently mess this up. My research only revealed a single modern instance of a team getting it right. It was Doug Peterson's Jaguars in 2023. Peterson was also a trailblazer in the down 14 situation we just discussed. He was the first modern coach to do it with the Eagles back in 2018. He's the go for 2 GOAT. Back to down 10, if the model is this confident, there must also be an intuitive explanation. And there is. Let's think through the conventional play. We need the extra point to go down 3, we need to get the onside, and then either a TD to win by 4 or a field goal to tie and win in overtime. So our chance of winning is the probability of the extra point times the probability of the onside times the probability of a TD plus the probability of a field goal times the chance we win an OT, 50%. It sure feels right to kick this extra point. That way, we know a field goal on the final drive is good enough. But that's the wrong way to think about it. A field goal might be enough, but it might not. We don't know whether or not we'll win an OT, and that should eat at us. We have to balance our chance of getting a field goal, which is good, with our chance of a TD, which is better. Imagine we could ask a crystal ball whether we were going to win an OT. This would be a huge advantage. It would help us make better decisions on this final drive. Half the time, it would tell us we'll win an OT, and then we wouldn't even try for a touchdown. We could play more conservative to settle for a more likely field goal. And half the time, the crystal ball would tell us we'll lose an OT, and there would be no point in kicking a field goal. We'll just go for the TD. In the real world, there are times where we kick a field goal and then lose an OT. With the crystal ball, we never make this mistake. We always go for the TD and have a shot at winning. The point is, this crystal ball would help us make better strategic decisions. I mean, duh. Of course seeing the future would help. That's kind of obvious. But stay with me. Understanding exactly why it helped will be relevant soon. Now let's consider going for 2. If we succeed with 50% probability, then we're down 2. We need the onside, and then either a touchdown or field goal wins. They're both equally good, so we can play conservative, likely settling for a field goal. And if we miss, we're down 4. So once we get the onside, we need a touchdown. We know a field goal isn't good enough, so of course we'll never take that. We'll always go for it on 4th down, maximizing our chances of a TD. But wait, this flowchart looks awfully familiar. It's exactly the same as the crystal ball one. Instead of overtime deciding whether or not a field goal is good enough, the 2-point conversion determines it. Either way, it's 50-50. The only difference is the 2-point conversion happens before our final drive instead of after it. So we do have a crystal ball. It's the 2-point conversion. And going for 2 increases our win probability in the exact same way that the crystal ball did. Here's another way of looking at it. Assuming we get the onside, our final drive has some chance of getting the TD, some chance of getting the field goal, and some chance of getting nothing. If we're down 3, the TD always wins. Nothing always loses, but the field goal is only 50% to win. So our overall chance of winning is represented by this area. Our win probability is the chance we get a TD plus 50% times the chance we get a field goal. So we'll choose our aggressiveness to maximize that quantity. If we go for 2 to avoid overtime, it looks the same at first glance. A TD wins it, and a field goal only wins it 50% of the time. The only difference is that the result of OT is determined after our final drive, while the 2-point conversion happens before it. We'll never choose to kick a field goal down 4. We'll choose our aggressiveness on this drive to maximize the probability of a TD. And conversely, when we're down 2, our win probability is given by the probability of getting a TD or field goal, so we can play more conservatively, giving up touchdown probability in exchange for a higher chance at getting any kind of points. The point is, with the 2-point conversion, we can use different, better strategies on each of the 2 halves. But if we let overtime determine things, we don't know the result, so we can't make different choices in the 2 worlds. You can quibble with exactly how much these bars move to the right, and you can plug your own numbers into the spreadsheet to see how things pan out. But they must move to the right, because we get to decide our strategy to maximize our win probability. And especially in the case where we're down 4, so we'll never kick a field goal, this seems really helpful. So going for 2 is strictly better. We gain the win probability in these 2 vertical boxes. That's based on the assumption that going for 2 is 50-50, just like OT is. But even if that's not the case, say the 2-point conversion is only 45%. Now there's a trade-off. We still gain the 2 vertical boxes, but now we lose this horizontal slit. But look at it, it's just smaller. Overall, we still gain. You can play with the spreadsheet and plug in whatever you want. I don't see how reasonable assumptions will give you a different answer. Anyway, All this brings us back to the question from the very start of the video. Remember, should LaFleur kick the field goal to tie or go for the Hail Mary to win? They tried the long kick and McManus shanked it. But was it the right call? The field goal is more likely, but it might not be enough. So is it twice as likely as the Hail Mary? It's a tough decision, and I'm not here to question Coach LaFleur's call. I'm here to question why they're in this situation at all. They shouldn't be down 3. They should be down either 2 or 4, in which case the decision would be obvious. If they're down 2, this is definitely the right call. It wins the game right here. If they're down 4, then it's definitely wrong. They need a TD to win. As it is, LaFleur doesn't know whether a field goal will be enough to win. He doesn't know if he'll win in overtime. Normally, I'd say he can't know the future. We can't fault him for that. Except that he can see the future. He should know whether the field goal is enough because he should have gone for 2. Coach LaFleur, I'm talking to you. Like and subscribe and go for 2. So that's a down 10 situation. And we're still going. We still got 2 boxes to cover. We haven't even talked about why Namakong is on the field for this extra point. I mean, the regular kicker got injured mid-game, but should he really be out there? Did he make it? And what are the actual probabilities? But first, we still got one more box to fill in on our end of game chart. We're down 7 and score to go down 1. Sometimes teams go for 2 in this situation. The 2017 Vikings scored with no time left and went for 2 to beat the 49ers in regulation. With our round numbers, going for 1 here and 2 here are equivalent. In reality, it seems totally reasonable that this might be the right play in this situation. We need the more precise numbers we'll talk about later to fully decide this. But we're not talking about scoring with no time left. We've been assuming there's 1 minute left. Here's a situation more like that. In 2019, the Broncos scored with 31 seconds left and got the 2-point conversion to go up 1 on the Bears. But was it the right call? I don't think so. The way to think about this is, like before, by replacing the overtime tiebreaker with a 2-point conversion tiebreaker, we reveal the result earlier. And we want to think, who can use this information better? And the answer is the Bears. They're about to get the ball back, so they can use this information better. Suppose we kick the extra point to tie it up. There are 3 possible outcomes from the Bears' next drive. They can score, TD, or field goal, in which case they win and we lose. They could also get a turnover. An interception, a fumble, or a turnover on downs would all give us the ball back in position to score, and we'd likely win. The third possibility is they run out the clock or punt, in which case things will go to OT and we'll be 50-50 to win. They need to balance their desire to score with their fear of getting a turnover and play a balanced strategy. If they're up 1, they don't care if they score. They just want to run out the clock so they can basically assure that. And if they're down 1, a turnover is no longer extra bad. They can be super aggressive to maximize their chance of scoring on this drive without worrying about whether or not they turn it over. Just like in the previous case where we had the ball, the Bears can use this information to pick strategies that maximize their win probability. And this really came up. Here's Trubisky on the next drive with 4th and 15 on the 40. They have to go for it. They get it, call timeout, and they kick the field goal to win. In the counterfactual, where we delay the tiebreaker to overtime and the game is tied, in that world, they have to punt here. It goes to OT, and the Broncos can still win there. That's why you can't go for 2 down 1. You have to settle for OT. But actually, hold up. There's another detail in this crazy game. Originally, the Broncos went for the extra point, and the kicker, coincidentally also Brandon McManus, missed. But the Bears were offsides. So after accepting the penalty, this 2-point conversion is from the 1-yard line, not the 2. And from the 1, we can't approximate their conversion chance as 50%. It's much higher, making going for 2 much more attractive. Going through the math, I'm pretty confident this was actually the right call. Even if they had made the extra point, I would have taken the points off the board and gone for 2. So sorry, Vic Fangio. Good call, even if it didn't pan out for you. The point still stands, though, in ordinary situations. Like here are the 2016 Raiders going for 2 from the 2-yard line with 47 seconds left. That put them up 1, which let Drew Brees lead an aggressive drive, and he almost made them pay for it. Just because they missed the kick doesn't make it the right call. That wasn't a gutsy call, Jack Del Rio. It was a bad call. This brings us to the final thing to cover for this video. What are the actual probabilities, and do they matter? Of course they matter. That's why the Broncos' attempt from the 1 made sense, while the Raiders' attempt from the 2 didn't. It's also why Namakong shouldn't be kicking extra points. He's bad at it. Of course he missed. That attempt happened in the middle of the game, so a full analysis will have to wait until my next video, where we'll talk about how teams should think about 2-point conversions in the mid-game. Spoiler, they almost never go for it, but they should. Anyway, since 2020, 2-point conversions have a success rate of 47.9%, while extra points have a success rate of 94.5%. We used 50% and 100%, so it looks like both our numbers were a little optimistic. It turns out that what matters is the ratio of the 2 probabilities, so substituting in these new probabilities changes almost nothing. It makes the math a little more complicated. Now that extra points aren't 100%, we have to add extra branches to our flowchart to consider what happens whenever we miss. It's not that bad, but not worth covering in this video. What do these situations have in common? When we're down 14, 10, or 7, the game is likely to end up tied in regulation and be decided in overtime. But we can replace the overtime tiebreaker with a 2-point conversion attempt, and we can resolve that tiebreaker now rather than at the end of the game, effectively letting us see the future. When we're down 14 and 10, that helps us by letting us make better decisions on our later drives, so we should go for 2. But when we're down 7, our opponents can use this information against us, and so we're better off taking the extra point, leaving it tied and hoping to win in OT. The intuition lines up with the math, so we can feel confident in our conclusion. I'm sure the Packers analytics department has shown LaFleur these numbers, but I actually don't blame him for going with his gut. Blindly following the numbers is an even bigger mistake than ignoring the analytics. But it's a false choice. We shouldn't have to pick between the two. Math should be intuitive. So when the two disagree, it means we don't understand the problem and need to think harder. Usually, we find a flaw in our equations, but every once in a while, we unlock a new intuition. This is Wage World, and I'm Nick Wage. So there's a spreadsheet in the description where you can type in whatever you believe and see how that changes things. Rianne? Yeah, that was a great take. It was the best take I've ever done.